Hello, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to another edition of Off the Beaten Path. Off the Beaten Path is a paranormal show about paranormal events throughout history, as well as in modern-day time. As always, I'm your host, rev.hagen, and I'd like to start off by welcoming, as always, our listeners at dngnradio.com, The Dungeon. If you like horror, if you like the paranormal, there's a few paranormal shows there as well. dngnradio.com is the place to go. And just to give a quick shout out, I'm going to tell you a few of the shows that they've got. They've got Violent Vespers, fantastic. Twisted Tales, Stories from the Shadows. The Hully Gully Horror Show. Chronicles of Kronos. Paranormal Soup Classics. It's another paranormal group that takes their shows from YouTube and puts it on dngnradio.com. Films of Fear. Phenomenal show with interviews from filmmakers, the stuff that's going on. Hagen's Horrific Cinematic Dissection. Thank you. That's one of my shows that I look at and review horror movies. And they've given me free reign to do horror movies from any time period. Excuse me. There's also Off the Beaten Path, this show that also airs on that show. Real Antiques, phenomenal. Wickedly Wonderful Film Reviews. Cemetery Whispers. Poison Playlists. Scary Specials. Weekly Wicked and Mistress. M's Maniacal Menagerie. Those are the shows that are on dngnradio.com, and they are tons of fun, let me tell you. This show today, though, is actually on Paranormal Investigation. What it is, what we do with the different takes on paranormal investigations, and the different stuff that seems to fall under the umbrella, but doesn't really. I'm going to start off talking about some of the different stuff, and then I'm going to get into my own group, which is Where Angels Fear to Tread. We have it on Facebook. I'll leave it down in the links below, as well as dngnradio.com, the link to get there, just like that. I'm going to start off with UFOs that seem to somehow fall under the umbrella. Kind of the different areas in paranormal investigation are UFOs, cryptoids, which is, Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, the skunk ape, the Jersey Devil, on and on and on. Stuff that can't quite be explained. Werewolves are kind of in there. Vampires, the whole nine yards. Kind of the menagerie of paranormal entities that people have actually witnessed as corporeal beings, as physical beings, is the cryptoid area. There's also ghosts. There's demons and demonology. There's possession. And those are just a few. And that's pretty much the ones we're going to cover today. UFOs, even though it falls under paranormal when it comes to web searches and a lot of other things, and I certainly viewed it as paranormal for a very long time. I don't really feel it falls under that purview, and I'll tell you why. It's gotten so much more respect, right? I don't even like the term paranormal, to be honest with you, because it seems like these are natural events that are happening. They just don't fall under our view, our world view, so we look at them as, this is mystical. Right? But is this part of the natural order of our world? UFOs. If you talk to anybody that actually studies exclusively UFOs, they will say that UFOs are a real gig, right? They refer to themselves as ufologists, which is a term I'm not super comfortable with, but came about sometime in the 90s. I believe it was early 90s. Doesn't really matter. Might have even been before then. But that's when it gained popularity, the term ufologist. Basically somebody that studies a UFO. Now, you can't get a degree in ufology. I think you used to be able to by some, I'm sure, reputable colleges. The best organization to go through for that kind of training, there's two actually, but the largest is MUFON. The Mutual UFO Network. Now, if you want to be an investigator with these guys, you've got to pass courses on investigating, on their method of investigation, which is very methodical and frankly, very trustworthy, and one of the best guides for investigation, period, but especially when it comes to UFOs. They're very detail-oriented, and they have professionals. These are professional people that are doing this. The other one is Dr. Steven Greer. Now, Dr. Greer has a movie coming out today, May 9th, 2017, called Unacknowledged. I had to look at notes because I keep calling it Undisclosed, because he also has the Disclosure Project, but it's Unacknowledged. An amazing movie. Again, coming out in selected theaters today. I cannot recommend this movie enough, and I think it's really important that everybody takes a look at it. Look it up online and get the background on it. It's basically the unacknowledged truth of UFOs that our government knows about and that we know about. Very, very informative movie by a very credible source. Previous movie, Sirius, which I ended up getting the phone app that helps you with field investigations. There's meditation in there. They did this phenomenal gig where they put the Fibonacci sequence, the mathematical sequence, to music, and the meditation with that, and getting in the right frame to get you in the right space, in the right frame of mind. Or even if you're an occultist and working with energy is a phenomenal aid. The app does cost money, but they have not only put a lot of work into these things and offer you so much through this app. I think when I got it, it was $5.99 U.S. dollars, U.S. currency. Worth every penny. Absolutely every penny. It's not something that you want to pirate. It's something that you want to buy from them, because the money for this organization goes for their Undisclosure Project and to draw attention to the real things that are happening with UFOs. So Dr. Steven Greer, Undisclosed, please check it out. You'll love it. I may even throw the preview online after this video comes out. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to do it. Really, really cool stuff. So that's ufology, kind of in a nutshell. It's the study of UFOs and the phenomena. Now, I've had my own experience with UFOs. I've seen things in the sky that don't act normally, that literally lights that went at 90-degree angles and 45-degree angles, and stuff that just didn't make sense. I have missing time as a result of these. I've seen lights in the sky, and the next thing I knew, it was the next day. I never thought anything about it until somebody asked me about it. Remember when we were kind of off the road? We saw those lights in the sky. It was like 2 days later. I was like, yeah, I do remember that. Well, did you see the article in the paper that was talking about the multicolored lightning? And I hadn't. I had blocked the whole thing out. So I do have some experience with UFOs, and even looking for UFOs. There's also, like I said before, the cryptozoology, the people that go after Bigfoot and Loch Ness and that kind of thing. And they're kind of entities unto themselves. It's a very specific focus. I have been fascinated with this for a very long time. I've done very peripheral investigations, primarily on Bigfoot, because I used to live in Northern California, and that's Bigfoot country. But these people are very driven for that specific gig. Now, hopefully in August, knock on wood, I will be going on a Bigfoot hunt with my buddy Ulf. I'm so excited about it, I can't even tell you, up in the Mount Shasta area, which would be so cool. But again, those seem to be very specific focus. The very specific focus is on cryptoids, right? For people that study that. The other groups are people that go after ghosts or investigate ghosts, like the ghost hunters. I always bring these guys up because they were the ones that they were kind of the first show out there, right, on paranormal investigation, and they primarily do ghosts or creatures of non-corporeal types for the most part. Used to be another great show, Destination Truth. I loved that show, where he would go out and look for cryptoids, look for ghouls and monsters and ghosts. Really, really neat stuff on the side. These were all on the old Sci-Fi Channel. We're on Sci-Fi Channel now. And all the other shows that blossomed out of that are people that are looking for proof of the hereafter, right? They're looking for proof of ghosts. They're looking for proofs of spirits. even occasionally demons, right? Something's happening. Under that preview falls poltergeist activity, where objects are moving. But even within the paranormal community, with all of this stuff, there's controversy even about terminology. I was raised in the paranormal community as looking at any kind of movement at all. And excuse me here. Oh, there we go. Any kind of movement at all of objects as poltergeist activity. The very definition was things moving without anybody touching them. Other people have used the term poltergeist as a specific entity. Some of that, I think, came from the movie Poltergeist, the original, with the terrifying little blonde girl that got sucked into the TV. Anyone? Spielberg? That's the one I'm talking about. There was a remake. I loved everybody in it, but wasn't real thrilled with the flick. Yet I digress once again. So poltergeist activity falls under the paranormal investigators that go after ghosts and that kind of thing. There are people that specifically go after demons. When they hear a demon, they call themselves demonologists. When they hear about a demon or possible demon activity, they go for it, right? It can be part of a group dynamic where you're investigating other things, but usually in this day and age, people have gotten very specific about their focus within the paranormal field, right? And even possession. Now, the Catholic Church used to kind of have the corner, used to own kind of all the possession and exorcism rights. Which is not entirely true, never was entirely true, but they, from what I understand, they have gone from a very few that would do this to quite a few hundred people within the Catholic Church are being trained as exorcists these days, which I find really interesting too. There seems to almost be, I know I digress all the time on these, you guys have to bear with me on it, but there seems to be a progression or a building exponentially of paranormal activity over the last 10 years. A lot of people thought the world was going to end December 2012, and that was the buildup, right? But, of course, it's 2017, and that didn't happen, and we're driving on. So that's very much a nutshell of what paranormal activity, or paranormal investigation, I should say. Those are the very broad categories. There's many categories in between. Even though I have studied the UFO phenomenon, I am not a ufologist or somebody who considers themselves a investigator of that particular genre, because the dedication it takes and everything else is a little beyond me. I'm more of a big picture guy. But I did carve this very cool and amazing alien arm back scratcher with my not patented at all, but my double bend scratch. Oh yeah, that's the spot. This thing's phenomenal. And very creepy. I've had people that, when I used to sell my carvings at events, at different festivals and that kind of thing, would see this particular piece and they wouldn't even want to touch it. They thought it was so disturbing. But that's kind of what I carved. There's a hand of glory up here. This here is a severed mermaid hand that even has the radius and the ulna, the two bones in it, poking out, which is a totally different show. But I do tend to be attracted more to the morbid than most. What can you do? So, my first case, before I formed Where Angels Fear to Tread, which is our paranormal group, was with a guy named Dr. Stan. I've talked about this before. Guy out of Sacramento. I don't know. He said he had a PhD in parapsychology. I was 19. I have no idea if that was factual or not. That's back when you could get a degree, a doctorate, apparently, in paranormal psychology. And again, I'm sure from very prestigious colleges. Anyway, I went with this guy, and there was a report of hauntings and poltergeist activity, stuff moving around. Got there, my shift was 1 or 2 in the morning to 4 in the morning, something like that. I was on camera. This is back in the day when this is VHS. This isn't, night vision ultraviolet, whatever, cameras placed in every room that you're monitoring from a computer. We didn't have personal computers for the most part. You did, but they were very primitive and DOS-oriented, and the internet was not that big of a thing yet, let's be honest. So here I am with a VH. You had to man these cameras. And all of a sudden, the temperature in the room plummeted. Felt ice cold. We didn't have a thermometer at the time, but it was cold. I could see my breath. And this is from, God, when was I think the investigation was late May, early June. So it was warm in Stockton, which is where this house was. And like I said, I could see my breath. And something hit my abdul oblongata, my base brain of, you have to go right now or you're going to die, that fight or flight. And I really believed that if I didn't leave that room right then, I was going to die. So I bolt. And he caught me on the stairs. This Dr. Stan. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "There is something happening in that room, and I'm gone, man." And he said, "If you leave now, you are gone. We're the guys that run towards this stuff, not away from it. So if you can't handle this, don't come back. And don't do this anymore. Don't make us all look bad," kind of gig. And I took it to heart. I went back up there, absolutely terrified. We in a $1.20 or something, soaking wet, which is obviously not the case now. Suck it in. But that was my first actual case. Instead of reading about it or just heading out to a cemetery and trying to figure out what was going on. Then I joined the Army and met my buddy Charlie Mann, very much a brother. I like what Dresden says about family. It's the people that stand. It doesn't matter whose DNA is combined with whose. It's who stands next to you shoulder and shoulder when the enemies are at the gate. That's a paraphrase. But I like that. I like that a lot. And that's Charlie Mann, man. He's a fantastic guy. But we started going out to cemeteries. We'd hear about a haunted gig. We'd go down there and investigate the Cathedral Bridge in Oregon, which is this beautiful bridge that if you look underneath it, it looks like a cathedral, right? The way they designed it is when you're underneath the bridge, it looks like you're in the archways of a cathedral. But supposedly this young woman had been raped horribly and murdered horribly, and people could not only hear her cries at night, but saw visions of her. Apparently she was a kind of a strange kid as far as her schoolmates were concerned, and she didn't bathe a lot, so she had a very thick, pungent odor, kind of an outcast. And somebody grabbed her up in the park, and that's right by this cathedral bridge, and horribly raped and murdered. And she wasn't found for like 3 weeks. It's a tragic story, but we were there to investigate whether or not she was haunting this place. So those are the kind of cases we took then. And then I left the Army, and I moved to the glorious, I should say, high desert of Southern California, the Mecca of culture and diversity. And my focus kind of shifted because it was no longer about proven stuff. I had had so many experiences. Charlie had so many experiences. I'd read so many experiences. I'd been on cases and saw things and felt them and heard them and touched them that for me it was a no-go. It didn't matter if anybody else believed it or not anymore. I believed it. And I believed that there were people out there that were afraid that these bad things were happening. And these people needed help. And I figured I could help them. I'm also a Wiccan priest, and I had that going for me too, and had been involved in the occult and off branches of religion and studied them for many, many years. So I thought I have an opportunity to help people that are afraid, a way to give back to the community. And so that's what I did. I formed Where Angels Fear to Tread. And the difference, and here's the gig, we're not the only group like this that's not trying to prove something, that's trying to help people. But there is a difference between the two types of group. And there's more than two, but we'll just talk about those two for right now. Get out of here, fly. The first is a group that is trying to prove, and we need these guys, that are trying to prove the existence of the paranormal, of life after death, of a ghost, of a demon, of a cryptoid, whatever the case may be. They're looking for proof, and they're looking to get it out to the public. Ghost Criers, fantastic group. Love these guys. Great videos. I'll post a link to their YouTube show as well, because they really do some really cool stuff, and they're entertaining guys, right? So it's fun to watch. But the point of these groups is to show you the paranormal and to try to prove that it's real. I got to do this again, excuse me. And then there's our group and groups like ours where I'm not worried about proving anything anymore. To me, this is all very real. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. I know it's real, not in a belief, not like a religious belief, but because of my experiences, I believe that this is a very real phenomenon. So you can question whether these things happen or not, but what you're really doing is saying, are you full of crap? If somebody tells you something, I just saw a ghost walk through the room, right? I just saw a Bigfoot out in the woods. Either you believe this guy or gal who is ever telling you the story, or you don't. Picture proof, proof through film. The nightmare is we used to believe in the paranormal community that if you got a good picture, if you got a good video, you're golden. You're ready to rock. But now images can be manipulated so easily. You can download software for free to do it. That's really hard proof to swallow for a lot of people. Even me. I'll see something on a UFO and I'll go, it looks too real. Now think about that. It looks too real to be real. Makes no sense at all, but that's the world we live in, where images and audio recordings, all that stuff, can be manipulated. And sometimes so well that it's almost impossible to say, is this photoshopped or is this a real gig, right? So anyway, we're not about that. Our group is about helping people. If you're afraid, if stuff's going on in your house that you have no explanation, we're going to help people. I have been accused, though, and I want to address this, of being a skeptic, unbelievably, at least as far as I'm concerned, of the paranormal. You're just out there to debunk it. You're just out there trying to say, well, it could be this, could be that. You never give a definitive answer. You just kind of present what you did. And that's other than the debunking, that's kind of true. What I like to do is, when I do an investigation, is we have all the pops and whistles, EMF meters, digital recorders. Don't have a lot of the fancy schmancy cameras in every house. None of that. We usually have a team in every house. Again, we're not looking for proof, but we do want to show the people, the families that we're investigating, you're not crazy. This really is going on. This is what we experienced. Here's a recording of it. Here's a picture of what we caught. We think it's this. It may not be. But if there's a rational explanation for it, I don't think it's paranormal. If you've got wires running through your wall, if you've got two outlets in a wall, the electromagnetic field is going to be very strong there. You're going to feel things. You're going to feel afraid. Some people feel nauseous. Some people actually see things. And there's two schools of thoughts on that. Is it the EMF field, right, that's hitting that part of your brain that's making these things happen? Or is it that you are able to see things that we see, hear, and feel things that you couldn't because of this EMF field? In other words, it's allowing you to see something that other people can't see because of that field. Two schools of thought. I personally believe that if there is that amount of electromagnetic energy, it is going to affect you pretty hardcore and make you see and feel things. But I also feel that the other case is true as well. A lot of it for me comes down to the people that contact me, whether I believe them or not. And if I don't believe them, I won't take the case, to be honest with you. If we've taken a case at Where Angels Fear to Tread, we believe that you believe this is true. Okay? I know people get very disappointed these days if you don't. I got to do this again, excuse me. If you don't come up with a paranormal explanation. In other words, if there's a rational explanation and you as the investigator believe that, because of shows like Ghost Hunters and the myriad of other shows that have blossomed out of that, people expect it to be paranormal now. People expect that, no, but I heard this, I felt this. Well, this is why you did. People don't want to hear it, especially people in the pagan community, and you know who you are, that are convinced that it's something else, and it may be. The other thing that happens sometimes is we'll investigate and nothing will happen while we're there. That's why you do more than just one night at a place. And it's a full invest now with all these guys, and I don't just speak for myself, but for any reputable investigator, it's an investigation. It's just coming in with your toys and turning stuff on and hopefully catch something. You got to investigate the property, the history of the property. Has anybody died there? Is there a history in this place of other things happening? The other gig is, what time of day does this happen? Does it happen every day at this time? No. Is it every Wednesday? No, it's every 2 weeks. And believe it or not, we go into in our group, well, is it a full moon? Is it a new moon? Is it a quarter moon? And is it consistent that it happens at each time at that particular phase of the moon? What day of the year is it? Is it a solstice? Is it an equinox? Is it one of the other Sabbats that a lot of the other older religions that are non-Abrahamic follow? So these are pretty in-depth investigations. When it comes to demons, I had a case not too long ago, last year in fact, where we took pictures and showed it had the face of a demon and its sigil on its forehead. Now, there are demons in almost every culture across the globe. People talk about demons. This one happened to be part of the Christian pantheon. Again, I'm not going to show you pictures. And I know people will almost invalidate that our group is a valid group because we won't show that stuff. But one of the reasons so many people come to us, and when I first started doing this as just trying to help people, I got 5 cases, reputable cases, within a week. And I must have gotten 15 others that were full of crap, if I'm being honest. With the assurance that we gave them that we're not going to show your pictures online. All right? I'm not going to show them on YouTube or on Facebook or on our group's webpage, which we had at the time. That confidentiality is key. Because a lot of people, especially when they're afraid enough to call for help, but who wants to be the crazy people with the ghosts, right? That have that kind of publicity. Believe it or not, in this day and age, people are still shamed by that. Even though it's, as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of other people are concerned, this is a real phenomenon. But people still get, pigeonholed, and their houses get egged, or people hassle them. It's ridiculous. All because they came forward and said, look, something terrifying is happening in my house, and I don't know what it is. Police won't do anything about it because they think we're nuts, right? If they ever go to the police, thinking that it might be, some human agent. So that's the demon stuff. The exorcism stuff, I have very little practice with it. A lot of times, I will ask if somebody has, when that stuff happens, one of the first things I ask is there a history of mental illness in the house? Right? Or in this family? That stuff's very close to schizophrenia, where people are, and other temporal lobe epilepsy, where people are seeing and hearing things that simply aren't there. Entire personalities that we can't see or hear, that medication helps with. Believe me, I am not the guy that says, well, it's obvious you're obviously possessed by a demon. That's not the first thing that's going to come out of my mouth. So possession, I don't have a whole lot of experience with. 2 cases that I went on that involved possession and that I was asked to join. They weren't part of my group, but I was asked to come aboard and help. One I could not have disagreed with more. And everybody was into it. Everybody was into it, into helping pull this out, even though we had, as a group, thought that this was a manifestation of themselves, that they had manifested this within themselves, and that they needed to let that go. The way the investigation went down was, in my mind, absolutely ridiculous. The other one, I didn't buy. I thought this was a very disturbed individual. I have seen it talk to other investigators. I've seen one other case where something horrible was happening to this young lady. I was brought in very peripherally. I don't even consider a case that I was called in on, even though I was. I said, I can't help you. You need, get me an old priest and a young priest. Other people, and I have to say this was about 20 years ago, so my experience at the time isn't what it was now. If I had to experience that again, I would have taken the case. I know people now that I can call to help me with that particular problem. Because we'll pretty much take any case, as long as the only criteria is you're afraid and you need help. I always tell people when it comes to possessions or even ghosts, are you religious? Have you gone to your priest, your rabbi, your minister? Because we don't want to step on anybody's toes, and we want to let people try to take care of this their own way. But that's kind of it. That's kind of paranormal investigation in a nutshell. I didn't get into the toys that, I mentioned an EMF meter and cameras and digital recorders and that kind of thing. Those are just kind of the knickknacks as far as I'm concerned. This show is more about where people are coming from with their lean in the investigation. Is it about proving something? Is it just about helping people and trying to get rid of or help them learn to live with what's going on with them paranormally? I didn't get too much into the possession stuff. People that believe in possession, the reputable ones, and that's one of the reasons the Catholic Church does have such a corner on this as far as documented cases, is because their cases get very well vetted. At least they used to. You really had to prove that there was something horrible going on, sometimes to the detriment of the families involved, because they'd have to wait so long, and sometimes to the benefit, at least of the church, that this was not somebody trying to debunk the churches or to debunk possession, period, which does happen. I do not follow the Abrahamic faith, any of them, Judaism, Christianity, or the Muslim faith. I find them fascinating. I think there's a lot of good stuff on any path, but it's just not mine. So I approach even my investigations from a little different angle than, say, the church would. But that's just it. So that's Paranormal Investigations, literally in a nutshell. I really hope you've dug this show as much as I dug doing it for you. I enjoy doing these things immensely. Really hope you guys enjoy it. Please check out my youngest son's channel. He's Prepped Ghost. He does gaming videos and goofy videos. He is proficient on online gaming. I do have to say that I do monitor closely. Thank you. My other son is a folk musician. His name is Michael Hagen. He goes by Little Bear or Lil Bear. He's also on YouTube. Please check out his music videos and give him the credit he is due. He is a phenomenal guy. Again, dngnradio.com, The Dungeon, our group, Where Angels Fear to Tread. All of these will be in the notes below. All these links to check it out. Of course, the hat that I got from Yarn Buddha. I'll put her, my friend Laura's tag down there as well. If you've got any ideas for shows, if there's something you want to see, let me put it that way more. If there's something you really want to see us cover here on Off the Beaten Path, please let me know in the notes below. Or you can send me an email. My email is rev.hagen, rev.hagen, @gmail.com. I'll put it in the notes below too. I hope you guys have a fantastic day as always. And keep those heads up, my brothers and sisters.